Because we are jam-packed in this meeting,
Yep.
I'll give it another minute or two, but by 6:02, I'd like to start. So I'll start
Okay.
sending out some messages.
So is it just you and me on the phone right now?
No, we've got Ari, Peter, Karen, Kathleen, Mayor Larson, May, and Ron.
Oh, sweet. Well, gentlemen, start your engines. Let's get this thing ripping and going, huh?
Yeah. I'll do some kind of housekeeping. I'm just going to send out a couple messages, and then we'll get going.
Cool. And thank you again for all the hard work
Yeah.
you put in on this.
Thanks. Happy to. Hoping it helps guide us forward.
Absolutely.
So I know Deb will not be able to join us tonight. Jill is going to be a little late. And I don't actually have a number for Lee, unfortunately. I don't know if, Chris, you have a number for him by chance. But
Let me take a look.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get, again, I want to be mindful of our time. And okay, I'm glad you can hear, Kathleen, hear us today. So I'm just going to get us started. Call this meeting to order at 6:02. We can get rolling. So lots to accomplish tonight. We are going to do a review of the goals and objectives the subcommittees developed. As I put here, we're really trying to limit those conversations to 10 minutes per subcommittee. You will see in this PowerPoint, some subcommittees have way more slides than others. We broke it down kind of by different types. So we're trying to maybe keep those slide discussions to around 2 to 3 minutes if they have more than a handful of slides. Then at the end of this meeting, we're going to talk public outreach and expectations for subcommittees, talk about next steps, do any questions, and then we all won't meet again until May 11th. So let's start with roll call and make sure you can hear me and I can hear you. Ari, are you there?
I'm here.
Perfect. I don't see a Tashna yet, or Billy. Karen Blakemore, can you hear me?
I can.
Great. Kayla, I think we've already determined, but okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Chris, I think we've also determined that, but can you hear me and vice versa?
Yes, indeed.
Great. Lee, can you hear me? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. May, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. And Ron, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Right. So it looks like at the moment we're missing Tashna, Billy, and Tom. For those of you who aren't on, Jill will join us in about an hour, and Deb can't be here tonight. But Karen, Garrity, can you also hear me? And vice versa?
I sure can.
Okay, let's do this then. So in this PowerPoint, the way I structured it was that you have kind of an introduction slide. The goal is to try to keep it like this for our public outreach. I included in that introduction slide the agreed upon vision statement. So May, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to review arts, culture, and education goals and objectives.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, if you go back to our first vision, I just want to explain a little bit what we had in mind there. We want to celebrate our people and their creativity, natural and cultural resources, of which we're so blessed, and also trying to allude to intergenerational exchange and lifelong learning. Okay, now I'm on to the next. So for the arts, we already have a pretty thriving thing going, but just wanted to clarify what we're doing and what we want to emphasize. So public art, prioritizing local artists. So if we're going to do signs, trail markers or whatever, we're hoping that the town will look first to local artists. public and private relationships, encouraging local events. It could be anything from a gallery opening to an art show. Promote the community center auditorium to expand what we offer there, maybe more live performance, poetry, dance. Oh, Dawn isn't present today. I don't know whether she got, Dawn Baumhauer has joined this group. She's been very clear about what's going on at the community center. So we also talked about ADA compliance in our exhibition spaces and how we're going to try to structure that, or the need to structure it so that we always have some things that are available for people that are challenged, handicapped in some way. And again, prioritize local artists for the creation of maps, interactive guides, signage, and so on. Does anybody have any questions about the arts part of that? It's hard to,
Yeah, and one thing, sorry, let me just add, one thing I failed to mention is obviously that document I sent you all last night, the vision, goals, and objectives, that was put onto the Google Drive, and it looks like, I know at least Karen Garrity, Karen Blakemore, Tashna, and May, I think you've chimed in a little bit. There may be feedback in that document as well that wasn't asked, but if you have any kind of immediate feedback that comes to mind, now would be the time to share it. Just because, again, we only have until Friday to pull this all together.
okay,
So
great.
no
Let's move on to culture. This one we felt was almost a bigger thing, and at one point we combined it with education. We felt working with culture that this is the place to talk about our town identity. So create an attractive, unique cultural identity for Netherland that can withstand the test of time. So because we talked about how we've had many identities over the years, and so here's kind of what we were thinking in terms of that identity: embrace diversity, community interaction, representing new and old perspectives, celebrate the uniqueness of our location and our respect for the natural environment, which we think will eventually really be an important part of our cultural identity. Continue the use of alternatives to flashing lights, stoplights, and traffic control that tarnishes the surrounding beauty and also the character of our town. Support for independent local businesses that add cultural uniqueness. We're talked about making it a dark sky town, which seriously increases bird migrations because they do tend to avoid towns that are light. Exhibit historical photographs, articles, and artifacts throughout town. Engaging students in project development. And then also outreaching to nearby peak-to-peak communities, especially Ward and Rollinsville. And publish an interactive, lively website representing arts, culture, and education, which we would complete in stages, eventually representing the peak-to-peak region. And here's a couple examples of web pages that seem maybe simple enough to do, but that are engaging. Anybody have any comments on that section of it?
Quick question. This is Chris Larson.
Sure.
You know, some of these, you know, I like all of these. I'm just curious. There seems to be a lot of bleed through to municipal government, to the economic development. When we actually pull together this final document, is there going to be a chance to kind of do that cross tagging? I guess is a question for Miranda, or some kind of way to. Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure that gets captured, because things like the support for local businesses obviously more of an economic piece as well. The alternative flashing light fits into the municipal government, things like that. I just want to make sure we capture that.
Yeah, once you have a chance to look through all of these, if you haven't yet, you'll see there's a lot of overlap. And so that's the perfect place to know, well, this is a big item, right? First of all, but then also to tighten up the final document so it's not repetitive.
To that point, so again, there isn't necessarily a need to tighten it up now because you still need to put it before the public to even make sure that they agree. Once you have that buy-in, May is really dedicated to tightening it up, making sure that where it crosses over, we maybe are aligning those goals, and then we're setting those specific measurable targets.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like when we do have that kind of crossover, then that has a special value as well. That because we had a hard time, not a hard time, but we had fun defining what is the culture of our town. Okay, on to education. Netherland area provides opportunities for learning across ages, cultures, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Provide opportunities for mentorship and intergenerational interactions. Join the Boulder Initiative to recognize. Well, I want to go back to that one because I had a really productive conversation with Caleb Malamed, the principal up at the school. And he was young when my kids were young in that school, and they had over twice as many kids in that school at that time. So there really is a problem with not enough kids in the schools. And we went over what those reasons are, but the number one reason is there's just not that many people here that are being attracted to Netherland and that can afford it, that have kids. So a lot of what we did was to try to think of ways that the town could offer leadership, in a sense, what the town is, and then students and their families can buy into it if they're interested. We did agree to join the Boulder Initiative to recognize tribal stewardship and engage area indigenous individuals to create cultural events. And I would also say to help in our descriptions of what we have here, include the indigenous perspective. And that would really make us stand out and be interesting for students as well. And along the same lines, create opportunities for students to actively engage in Town of Netherland goals and projects. Caleb said, he was pretty sure that up at the elementary school, there would be, people that would want to go out and, if it was coordinated, do a weed pull or maybe a identification of species, or, hopefully something that's going to engage the kids, something more fun than recycling. Improve the mountain school experience and attract new students by collaborating with Boulder Valley School District, CDOT, and other agencies to design and construct safe trails and highway crossings to and from schools. We all know the kids are walking across the highway, and I think there's agreement that it would be nice if there were, especially if we have a trail network, that there's some kind of crossing vehicle or mechanism at those points, like the Eldora turnoff, the community center, stand out. Expand Netherlands cultural and historical awareness through art and cultural initiatives. This could be events that we're part of. This could include strategically located information boards along trails, events already named, art projects depicting historical Netherland events, and financially support traditional festivals like Miners' Day and the Powwow. So I don't know whether that is everything we talked about, but those were the things that stood out.
I believe Ari had some feedback. Let's see your
Hi, how's it going, guys? I'm wondering also within that we could have included not only for our Indigenous peoples, because our First Nation peoples are incredibly important, but also maybe being inclusive to our Latinx, our people of color, as well as Black Lives Matter movements, so we can be inclusive to maybe anybody who's up here as well. Would that also be okay to throw in there?
We put that into our vision statement where we talked about a diverse thing. And sure, I think the reason that the initiative or the Indigenous is being highlighted is because they're part of our history. Of course, I don't know how many people know about that. There was a Black settlement out there on South Beaver Road that sprung up about 100 years ago. That
Called
would
Lincoln
be
Hills.
Lincoln Hills, yeah.
Yes, fabulous to the Peak to Peak Corral. That would be a perfect thing for them to do a program on, or someone else. So, I mean, I
Well,
think
I'm just seeing within the definition, I think to be all inclusive of all cultures, because it's so plural, and what's just really relevant in today, as well as our Indigenous peoples, is people of color, Latinx, LGBTQ plus. Just seeing a few more than just the highlight of specifically Indigenous. Just having a few more in there, possibly, if you guys are open to it.
well, I know that they're really active up at the high school with for example, LGBT awareness, and I think they've been doing a great job.
Cool.
Yeah, in terms of including it in here, I guess I think there's some emphasis among the committee I'm on, at least, to try to pinpoint a few, because as I said, we didn't really get to everything, but if we're going to name all of those things, then probably what's going to happen is the Indigenous will just be a tiny little part if we really try to live up to what we're saying we want to do. We do make references to learning across ages, cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds. I mean, I lived in Brazil for 5 years and I traveled in Mexico when I was in high school. I'm very, I love to hear Tex-Mex music. Carmelo's a friend of mine. He comes up with Chico Ritmo. So I'm not sure we want to name all that. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Can I
Hear more.
just step in just for a sec? This is Karen. Just because we're already into 20 minutes and we're only on our first one, I have a suggestion, which is, someone prompts the statement, they add it to the Google document, and then throughout the next couple days, people can weigh in on the Google Doc. It's just a thought, just to make the night maybe end a little before midnight. But anyways, that's just my thought.
I'm sorry. I guess I wasn't watching the clock. Try to be time conscious, but
Oh,
I
no,
appreciate this.
May, it's nothing. I think this conversation is amazing. So please know that. I'm just trying to think of a way we can continue to move forward and try to hear all of the 7 committees, and be productive. And it's just a thought.
For sure. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Love to see your comments. Where you would put them, how you would phrase them, and so forth. Okay, I guess that's it.
My ask then, if possible, Ari, I don't know kind of technologically if you can, jumping in maybe during the meeting and providing those, or very latest if everyone can provide that comment by tomorrow morning. Again, we get to this later in the slides, but we only have until 9 a.m. Friday to pull together the final draft. So the sooner you can provide those comments, the better. Thanks.
And one thing
One thing
people could do too is add things to the chat so everyone could see it. We could take like a few questions for each one of the 7, and then if it ends up being longer, take things through the chat that'll be added to the Google Doc or something like that. I'm just trying to figure out a way we can make it more productive and move forward.
And if we did that, would you be able to be the one to move it into the chat since I can't see the chat while also hosting the screen?
I could do that, or the person who puts it in the chat could be responsible for adding it to the Google Doc.
Okay. All right. Are there any kind of final moments or pieces of feedback for May? Otherwise, it's still May for community engagement.
Okay. Community engagement. I wish that Deb were able to present this because she's been the lead person on this from start to finish. And I've really relied on her. So hopefully I'll be able to make sense of this presentation. But we did agree on community engagement fosters trust and encourages participation, is inclusive, interactive, and results in innovative partnerships. We couldn't help doing all those I's, but that is our guiding force right there. Let's go on. I think we're going to be short on this, but anyway. Build lasting collaborations by utilizing a broad spectrum of crowdsourcing, low and high tech, while creating long-term allies to improve overall town project success and awareness. And this, Deb is actually really good at this kind of stuff. She and Miranda came up with one of those, I want to call them barcodes. What do you call it, Miranda?
QR code.
QR code. So that like when the kids, like if we wanted kids to weigh in on something up at the high school, you know, they're very much always using their phones so they can directly go to the page where we might have in a poll or something. And then we all know here in Netherland, a lot of it's word of mouth. So I think we understand that Netherland, there's almost as many ways of communicating in Netherland as there are people. So, okay, create better communication to improve community town project knowledge. For example, what is the BOT voting on? Just not this coming week, but maybe as far out as can be reasonably roughed into a schedule. You know, what are some of the big projects? And we've got some examples coming up of how other people do this. What the DDA is working on, what are the hot topics? I think in the end, the web page could really improve community knowledge about stuff, not only projects in the future, but projects that have already kind of been sidelined. Like, what about voting on Barker? A lot of people want to know. Why can't we? Well, we've had a lot of discussions about that. So if we had a tab on there, you want to vote on Barker, they could go to that and see what's involved. Okay, involve town partnerships and engage teams to mobilize resources which serve as catalysts to assist in the success of individual projects. And that almost seems to me, you know, a little bit like what we're doing here. You have a small committee, or you get a few people that are going to interact with government or some other organization. And the webpage would help bring those people in ideally. Increase resident and visitor awareness by creating an environment of inclusion. Provide individuals opportunity to advocate their ideas. Offer a format to gather advice or guidance. And ensure an open, trustworthy, and credible process. And the City of Boulder's online engagement platform is good. It's limited in what they have. It doesn't include anything that we have on our wish list, but it certainly does go through what do they call it, hot topics and that kind of thing. And the Greensboro, North Carolina home, I got to admit, I haven't even visited that, so I can't speak to that. Probably shouldn't admit to that, but I haven't. So, so is that it then? Shall we move on to the next one or ask for quick comments, or how you want to do this now?
So I believe this is a one slide. Yep, that's a one slide for community engagement. So feedback now would be good if anyone has any, either to type it in the chat or to go ahead and unmute yourself to give some quick feedback.
Okay, well, thanks everybody. Make sure you check it out and check out our links. And this will be an evolving thing as we move forward.
So it looks like maybe there's a few just to consider before we finalize the documents. There's a few notes in the chat related to arts and culture if you want to take a look at that as we move forward. All right. Karen Blakemore, your turn.
Hi, everyone. We have a great team working on environmental sustainability. It's myself, Tom Howard from the DDA, Billy Giblin from the Planning Commission, and Jill Dreves from Wild Bear. So our vision statement is that we want to make Netherland a model community for environmental sustainability. That includes being knowledgeable about how our decisions impact the earth, taking action to mitigate adverse effects of climate change, and conserving, preserving, protecting, restoring our environment to foster both a sustainable future and also lead to social and economic improvements in our community. So we worked closely with SAB and Garrett McDaniel, who's the sustainability coordinator. We also researched best practices that are being done across the world and in Boulder County and other local municipalities. We reviewed the SAB documents and we came up with 7 different themes: climate, ecological health, economy, energy and buildings, local food and agriculture, and transportation. And for each one of those themes, we developed a goal and more specific objectives. Included with each set of objectives for every theme, we included an education goal, education objective, as well as we tried to include a socioeconomic equity objective. So the first goal is climate, relates to climate. The goal is to achieve carbon neutrality and become more resilient to the effects of climate change. And I won't read through all the objectives, but I'll give you enough time to read through on your own.
Karen, did you want to do feedback per slide like May, or did you want to go through all your themes first? What's your preference?
We have 7 slides
Mm-hmm.
and 10 minutes total. So we could try each slide, and then if that's moving too slow, then just at the end.
Okay.
Okay, any questions on or comments on the climate goal? Righty, the next one is ecological health. And this has to do with the environment. And we all love the environment that we live in and the surrounding forest and open space and the creeks and all that. We want to preserve and restore that as a healthy and vibrant ecosystem for all inhabitants.
Looks great to me, Karen.
Hey, May, thanks. Okay, that last one is not a sub-bullet. That is on equal standing with the other objectives, the education one.
It has a different font, so I don't know if somehow it got off. I'll go ahead and fix that for the final presentation.
No worries. Okay, well, let's move on then. The next theme is economy. And here, we believe that supporting a diverse and local economy is good for the environment. And we also want to encourage green businesses and green business practices.
Well, I'm just curious, is there a clean tech? What is clean tech?
Clean technology. So this would be like the creation of technology to do with solar panels.
You mean like manufacturing?
Manufacturing, installation, consulting, yeah, all the above.
Okay, because I remember back in 1994, there was a lot of talk about where's our industrial zone, and we really don't have much of an industrial zone. But I won't take any.
Okay. Well, perhaps we will in the future have some sort of light industry. And if that was more towards the green side, that would feed into this goal. Okay, next slide is energy and buildings. So here we're talking about fostering building practices that encourage energy and water efficiency while supporting building electrification and moving away from natural gas. Okay, next one is local food and agriculture. So we're recommending that we support local food production and encourage sustainable agricultural practices on both publicly owned and private lands. Okay, and the final theme is transportation. Here we're promoting the use of alternative transportation and fuel-efficient vehicles in order to decrease emissions while maintaining or expanding mobility for town residents, employees, and visitors. So that's all I have. And I know there's a lot of overlap with other groups like Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, and perhaps economic development. But I think that that's okay to have be looking at problems from multiple different angles. So that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay.
And there's a couple great notes from Ari, just thanking you, especially for including ADA accessibility. I also want to give a big shout out to Karen. So for the document that you all are editing, I did use the format that was used for environmental sustainability and parks, recreation, open space. So Karen, thanks for getting us started on that format. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Oh, did I skip this one? You did it. Did I not move the slide?
Water.
Yeah.
Oh,
did we do that one yet?
I think that was my problem here. There's water and zero waste. We didn't go over those. Okay. Water. Sorry about that. There's 9 themes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, or 8. Okay, for the water goal, we preserve the natural environment in our watershed and provide a reliable, high-quality water supply that protects public health. Okay, and the final one is zero waste. Here we're looking to reduce landfill waste while finding ways to reuse, recycle, and compost discarded materials. And now we're really done.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay.
All right, well, we're moving right along. Health, Human Social Services. Ari, you're up.
Okay, so for our statement, it is in 2030, all peak-to-peak community residents have accessible and affordable healthcare and human services. For healthcare, to provide a full spectrum of medical services to our community, provide access to medical care serving all peak-to-peak communities, such as but not limited to primary care, urgent care, testing, imaging, women's care, vaccinations, pharmacy, physical therapy, ophthalmology, dental care, psychological services, such as AA, Al-Anon, NA, DV groups, anger management, stress management, and parenting classes. Services can also meet other needs of residents, such as late evening weekend hours, and transportation is affordable and available for appointments and triaged urgent care needs. Okay. Human services. Establish a comprehensive human services facility and network, maintaining and sustaining a collaborative network of nonprofit and governmental human service providers to provide access to a range of human services such as, however, not limited to, food pantry with community garden and greenhouse, winter clothing closet, family resource center, in addition to affordable support services for home care, medical and non-medical, in-home hospice, group childcare, medicaid services for those needing negotiation support, vocational training programs, flourishing schools, and education for future generations. Ensure agencies and organizations accept Medicaid, Medicare, and have affordable sliding scale. Ensure home care services and in-home hospice care services will come up to the peak-to-peak communities and will accept Medicaid, Medicare, and have an affordable sliding scale. Affordable transportation is available for appointments, medical and non-medical, and peak-to-peak communities will support families of children and provide a safe and healthy environment where all can thrive. Thank you.
Anyone have any comments or feedback for Ari on these 2 slides? All right. Next is housing, and I think am I safe to assume you'll do this one as well?
I'll do this one.
Okay.
All right. So we know there's a housing crisis, and there are lots of people in Florida that are looking for higher ground. So we wanted to focus on the housing needs of our community. So housing that meets the socioeconomic and environmental needs of the community. Oh, this format looks kind of weird, but there's kind of 2 ancillary thoughts to that. Encourage housing that enhances and builds community and provide an opportunity for housing with dignity and a positive future for our residents. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Allow for the construction of housing to meet the needs of our local population. So one of the things we talked about is, identify the need and the possible solution, and then look at the problems that might come through. So we wanted to specify again, development that serves the needs of our local population through commercial lodging and residential housing. Develop public-private partnerships to promote affordability, to provide housing for the elderly, those living with disabilities, the local workforce, and other vulnerable populations. I think we left one out there. Anyway, consider the financial challenges on low-income seniors who are aging in place. Okay, next, please. Establish a timeline now for housing that plans for present and future growth. And we suggest this as a framework: get public input by following the Envision 2030 process for public engagement, and if necessarily, a vote at a regularly scheduled election on local preferences for annexations or infill or increasing height and density in the central business district, if we're considering an overlay district, or zoning modifications. So that is the timeline one. Let's keep going because this is pretty long. Meet goals for housing through affordable housing incentives and options, code updates, and IGA agreements, and partnership with private and public entities. Wow, I can barely read this. So we talked a lot about what's practical in terms of incentives. We, so far, about the only public housing or affordable housing that we have in town is owned by Boulder County. So we're talking about incentives that might appeal to someone that is not a government agency, or is. But these are things like density or height increases, and in exchange, there would be a percentage of affordable or senior units. That's what an incentive might be. Another incentive might be, oh, looks like there's a repeat there. Amortize permit and tap fees to encourage adequate, equitable, and alternative housing solutions. So if you are building something that really seems like it's going to be low income for real, there's a process by which you can amortize your permit and tap fees. That's an incentive. That could be for a small scale builder or a large scale builder. The flex rent schedule, let's not spend too much time on that, but it's interesting. Find ways to monitor and ensure that incentivized housing is meeting stated goals. Okay, so we all know that this always involves update and adopting local building codes. We think there needs to be a little more clarity in code about what constitutes a dwelling unit. Revisit the ADU and SDR ordinances and determine if they have had the desired effect of creating affordable housing, as well as any cost advantage or disadvantage that has resulted. That way we can kind of have a system of evaluation in place, which is one of our goals. Revisit recent code revisions which prohibit traditional Netherland options, such as RV parking on private land, tiny homes, and homes which do not follow the IRC, and allow for dwellings with low environmental impact, such as but not limited to straw bale, hempcrete, yurts, seasonal use of teepees, etc. And explore the creation of a Netherland housing and land trust. Atashna had a series of ideas on that, but we never really got into a discussion of it. So, but we all agree that would be a nice thing. And that's it, I think, Miranda. Does anybody have any quick Comments? Or
Thanks
questions?
I'll take out that duplication. I'm not sure how that got in there, so thanks for pointing that out. Any comments?
Thanks, you guys.
So Lee and Chris, Tom, it doesn't look like he's made it. So I don't know if one of you would like to tackle municipal government and economic development.
Well, I think Chris should do the municipal government.
Sure, I'll do that. And you want to take economic?
That's fine.
There we go. All right. Well, you can see this is our vision statement, which is unchanged from the previous meeting. I'll let everyone read that. I think you've seen it at this point. Our goals. So the first goal was a suggestion, and this is very much a 2030 level project, was the idea of taking a look at possibly moving from statutory to home rule. To give us more opportunities. It's definitely what I think we'd consider a stretch goal by 2030, but it's something we want to put in here as a potential goal. Continuing to increase the digitization of public records. This kind of ties in to the public outreach and making it easier for people to get information, to understand what the town government is working on, the various boards, and increase the availability of that information to everyone. We want to make sure that basically a lot of these tie to town code, working on the town code to make sure it meets the needs of our entire community. The business development, commercial, industrial housing rules, are those really what we're looking at wanting, or do they fit the goals of the entire community? And, there's a lot of overlap here with other things. Again, talking about the idea of leveraging the public-private partnerships to improve infrastructure while doing development. So if we do have a large development project coming in, let's make sure that we are using that to upgrade the infrastructure as needed. Increasing the financial position of the town. This was one I think I feel really strongly about. I think it's something we've worked on. I think we should continue to work on, because we need to have the ability to weather crises. We've done very well over the last year, but we all saw the floods in 2013, pandemic. Make sure that Netherland is ready for the next crisis. The community center master plan, a lot of work's been done in that, and it's a critical piece of the town infrastructure. And we want to make sure that we work towards implementing it, but also including additional space for town government operations. Right now, we pay $1,200 a month to TBO for rental space for our police department. It's nice to have it centralized, but what about moving that up to the community center? What about having more space for our building department? Just making sure that we are continuing to take care of the town facilities that we have and that we need, so that we can continue to work for the town, or that our staff can easily continue to work for the town. And then taking a look at our zoning map. We update that occasionally, and maybe it's time to start taking a look again at whether or not it needs to be updated for the growth of the town, internal growth of the town in terms of infill and business developments, just to see what the development is looking like over the next 10 years. And again, this is something saying that we want to work over in the next decade. This is not something that we want to necessarily do in the next year. And then finally, that continue to work with the IGAs between ourselves and Boulder County, but in such a way that really meets the needs and interests of Netherland, first and foremost. Comments, thoughts?
Chris, this is Karen. I put a couple comments in the document.
Okay, great. I'll take a look at those.
Thank you.
All right, Lee, it's up to you.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say I love it, the government part. The economic vision part is kind of a twin of the government. You can read the first part, that we leverage our setting and the one bridge that, attracts the 2 million visitors to actually stop and get out of their car and spend some money here. And I'm hoping that the second part is that the town would have clear economic development priorities that are reflected in our governance and legal code. And then the third part, we talked a lot about ADUs, and that's also being discussed by the board. You know, I think it's especially important to try to really take a look at the downtown area, since that's the area I think that has the chance of the most redevelopment currently. So I'm a like use kind of guy, and so I want density in the town in order to save more fragile areas. So I'm a big proponent of like use and having higher density in downtown. And I guess there's some the town code is a little bit ambiguous about how it relates to density. So it would be great to try to straighten that out so that it's not ambiguous. We do need to partner with landowners to be specific, fair, and we need to have non-nebulous rules for commercial and residential development. Again, I think just like the zoning map, I think the code, the town code, you know, I made a statement that we should just redo the whole thing, but really, I think you have to start somewhere. So it's better to just you know, update it as need be. You know, we need to, I think personally, that we need to have a clear community supported vision for the last undeveloped parcels in and around the downtown. I brought up the idea of possibly, you know, having like 3 different visions available for people to look at the library, the community center, and the post office, and have them check off which one they like the best. I thought that was a way to get a feel for how the community feels. Also, I think that engaging downtown development expertise is probably a good idea. We need to re-examine our design code and the height limits. I mean, I made the statement that we should raise it from 35 to 50 feet downtown. And not so much because I want a 4-story building, but because I want, I think it would be, Netherland would be a more attractive place if we actually had some pitched roofs. And then I think also, and this relates to a lot of other things, whenever areas are redeveloped, we try to connect the trails and walkways, the public spaces and rights of way. We look at the different setbacks per code. And then, of course, I'm always pushing a town square. You know, town square, I think, is a great idea in the area at the visitor center, either the south half of it or the whole thing. And then Chris came up with a great idea, I thought, about making the First Street from Bridge Street to Schneider Street a walking mall. I mean, I think that would be great, but we have to see what the town really, the residents of the town really prefer, whether they would prefer more parking or whether they would prefer some sort of a walking mall in that area. But anyway, that's where we are in economic development vision, and you can read the rest of it and add to it if you like.
Thanks, Lee. Is there any initial feedback?
Oh, Lee, this is Karen again. I put a comment in the document.
Okay.
For economic development.
Okay.
Ari put a comment in the chat saying it really does make sense to make the downtown area more centralized to preserve more forested areas.
Yeah, it's a doctrine. It's a doctrine I think of as like use. I mean, when you already have a downtown area, you know, we're a town, so it makes sense to have the density in the downtown to save other areas.
I agree. Great job, you guys.
Thank you, Marie and Chris. Right. I know it looks like we don't have Jill on yet. So Karen, am I safe to assume you'll take this one on?
Sure. Okay, so Jill is the chair. I'm working in the subcommittee, as is May. And we've gotten some good feedback from Karen Garrity. We also reviewed the 2013 Parks, Recreation, Open Space and Trails Master Plan with ProSab, looking at what things we wanted to keep moving forward. And we got feedback from Chris Pelletier. We also consolidated the responses from the 2030 Envision survey, looking in particular at parks, recreation, and open space. So we feel we got some good input from the community at this point. So the vision is to, for our community and its visitors to enjoy ecologically sound and well-maintained parks, open space, and trails with recreational cultural services and facilities while protecting and enhancing the unique mountain ecosystem of which we are part. Then we looked at 5 different areas and created goals and objectives for each of those. There's an overall goal, a parks goal, a recreation goal, an open space goal, and a trails goal. For the overall goal, we have Netherland's unique and stunning setting in the natural world informs our planning and maintenance. We honor and maintain the land and surroundings as environmental stewards. We provide opportunities for residents of the greater Netherland area to live, play, interact, learn, and flourish in a walkable, attractive, and well-planned town. I think rather than me reading each one of these, maybe we could just stay on the slide for a few minutes so everyone could read on their own. Okay, here the acronym PROST stands for Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails. Okay, next slide is on parks. The goal is to have parks that are maintained and planned as spaces for people to respectfully engage with nature and each other in balance with residents' needs for recreation, social gathering places, and local and regional culture events on a scale that is appropriate for the size and character of the town. Just 3 objectives here. Implement the Gateway Park plan, and that is in progress. It's called officially called Barker Meadows Park. The second objective is to continue to create and implement management plans for all town parks to enhance sustainable operations. And here we're looking at addressing erosion, managing overuse, managing trash, including hazardous fishing waste and dog waste, And the last objective is to use best practices for environmental sustainability when designing and creating parks. So some of the items that we'd consider here are native planting, low water use, and the needs of wildlife. Okay, and the next goal is recreation. Netherland area recreational activities and programs address the expressed recreational needs and preferences of the Netherland area community and promote healthy, active, and culturally rich experiences in alignment with a deep respect for nature and commitment to environmental stewardship and education. 4 objectives. The first one is to evaluate how we're currently using the community center and optimize that use, securing ongoing funding to accommodate more of the community's recreational goals. The next objective is to, back up please. So looking at the responses from Envision 2030, there were a lot of different things requested for recreation, from a water park on the creek, boating on the reservoir, sledding hill with a tow rope. And so this next objective is to come up with a way to evaluate these requests for new recreational programs and facilities. The third objective is to explore public and private partnerships to maximize and leverage resources. And the last one is to support a mix of recreational and cultural activities and programs that are responsive to the interests and needs of Netherland area residents. Okay, now we're ready for the next one. The next slide. Open space. Netherlands community's desire for open space preservation is recognized by creative pursuit of land preservation opportunities that arise with the priority placed on preserving sensitive natural resources, viewsheds, and riparian areas, and by responsible management of the town's open space property. So the first objective is to establish a process to acquire open space and to, in order to pursue land preservation opportunities. And the second is to develop a sustainability analysis and management plan for currently owned property that looks at best practices for ecosystem, functionality, wildlife, stormwater, forest health, soil health, wildfire mitigation, and site appropriate public access. Okay, final slide is on trails. The Netherland area trail system provides safe, accessible, and well-maintained pathways which are left as much as possible in their natural state. This system links Netherlands commercial district, neighborhoods, schools, area parks, habitat, recreational facilities, and regional trails, and it also fosters well-being and provides opportunities for alternative transportation. So 6 different bullets: update the Trails Master Plan, which is in progress, identify resources for trail planning, construction, and maintenance, create and implement an information campaign to educate users to respect neighborhoods, habitat, and wildlife, improve the trail safety to promote walkability, health, and alternative transportation, continue working with surrounding public and private landholders for linking trails, and then develop a trail along the western shoreline of Barker, which is part of the GOCO grant that we received. That's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
I was a little slide happy earlier. Okay, so that was, we accomplished that much faster than I anticipated. So thank you all. The next piece is I'm gonna kind of stop per slide and take your questions, because when we head into public outreach, as you see from the calendar, things are going to move very quickly. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So to start, we are going to turn this PowerPoint, not the one with all the public vetting information, but the slides we just reviewed with some edits, into a YouTube video. So in essence, what we'll do is we will have members of the subcommittees narrate their respective slides. It's just the audio only, no video. And then we'll turn it into a YouTube link that can be shared. And so there's a lot of benefits to that. First, it's the consistency of messaging. We'll be sure that the same video is reviewed by all the different boards and commissions, by the community on our website, so that message always stays the same. It provides yet another way for people to leave feedback, because you can leave comments at the bottom of a YouTube video. That link can be emailed out or posted on social media. You can all share it with people you feel like you want to get input from. It's something that just can be transmitted better than a PowerPoint. And then the big thing is that the videos can be sent out prior to meetings. The goal would be, for example, the Planning Commission has a pretty packed agenda. And so ideally we'd like to send the video out first, ask the commissioners to review it, and then take only about 30 minutes of their time to get feedback, rather than taking almost an hour to watch both the video and get feedback. So are there any questions about the YouTube component? Okay. So start thinking now who that person is for your committee. The way in which the YouTube video would be recorded, or the slides, is I can email the PowerPoint and walk you through how to record it at your own home, or you can come to town hall and we can do it together. There's numerous ways to give feedback, which I've outlined in this document. So first is advisory boards and commissions. Obviously, the challenge there is the community will only get their 3 minutes during public comment, but this is really a time that we'll be looking at the board and commission members to be giving their feedback. We also will attend external stakeholder meetings as needed. So for example, the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services has already asked us to present, so we're going to attend that meeting. And we'll attend any other meeting that seems appropriate. So maybe Teens Inc., their board meeting, wherever it feels appropriate for our town staff to go and present, we will. There's the in-person public charrettes. So as you see, we've got a few of those scheduled. We will want to make sure that people RSVP for that in order to ensure social distancing and health compliances. But what it'll be is there will be posters up throughout the multi-purpose room, and people can wander around and either verbally give their feedback to staff, and we'll record it, or they can write it down on Post-its and stick it on the posters. So that's the same format in which previous years public charrettes have been held, and we're just going to mirror that process, but just try to stagger entry times to ensure social distancing. We'll also do virtual public charrettes, where people will enter into respective breakout rooms based on subcommittee, and then can engage with the members of the subcommittee who are there. We are going to have a binder available at Town Hall where people can read the vision, goals, and objectives and provide their feedback either to town staff, or again can kind of write on the document and we'll compile it. Town Hall is officially opening effective Monday. On the call we have Peter. He is our new administrative assistant, and so he can help people Monday through Friday 9 to 5 with that process. The YouTube video will be uploaded on the website, and there will be a fillable form similar to like the SWOT analysis, something that they can complete that just allows them to free flow their feedback. As discussed, we have the YouTube video. People can leave comments on the YouTube video. And then I'm still working on finalizing Gather Town. But Gather Town is in essence kind of an avatar video game-esque system where people can access it 24/7 and they can wander virtually, kind of with a little avatar icon guy or girl, through the different rooms and leave comments on vision goals and objectives. Chris Larson found this for us. It's a really neat program. And I think, for people who prefer to do a lot more kind of maybe technologically focused feedback, this would be a great opportunity for them. And there will be more information to come on exactly how to access that program on our website. Are there questions about the various ways in which you can give feedback or any other recommendations about things maybe we did not consider? Okay. Oh, was there someone had a question?
No, I was going to say, should something be posted in the newspaper?
Already done.
As to all of this material?
Yeah,
Oh,
so we have
good.
the whole back page of the Mountaineer this Thursday is a flyer about Envision 2030 public outreach that it lists all these ways you can give feedback, and it encourages the person to then go onto our website to learn exactly how to access each of the meetings. And it includes that QR code, so someone could just scan their phone and it'll take them straight to the Envision page. So look out for that on Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I included the calendar when I sent all this out. So as you see, we've kind of scattered them around. We did break it down where there are evenings dedicated specifically to your subcommittee, because we recognize that there may be members of the community who only care about housing, and they may not feel the need to comment on the rest of the goals and objectives. So by dedicating a night to housing, it would allow them to come just for that piece. So you'll see there's a combination of the full charrettes, both in person and virtual, as well as the independent subcommittees, the advisory boards and commissions, and then the one external stakeholder meeting we've been invited to so far. Are there questions about the calendar? We're trying to give some breaks. We did only stick with Saturdays. Sundays have kind of historically been challenging to do public vetting on. And so that's where we would encourage people to maybe do some of the more 24/7 accessible ways and just keeping the charrettes to Saturdays. Again, we're open to meeting with people. If someone needs to come into town hall, we're happy to accommodate them. But this felt the most comprehensive, still gives people breaks. As you can see, most meetings or weeks, we're looking at potentially 5 meetings a week. Now that doesn't mean you all have to be there every meeting. Karen and I will be there every meeting. So I'm actually going to skip ahead. So what is expected of you as subcommittee members is you all should plan to attend your respective day for your area of focus. In addition, we would ask that at least one subcommittee member be available for the in-person public charrettes and the virtual public charrettes, so that the dates and times are listed on this PowerPoint page here. I would recommend you connect with your committee and find out who's going to take on which one. Obviously, if we're missing subcommittee members for a certain group, myself or Karen will step in, but no one can speak to your goals and objectives better than you can. So the ask would be that you find ways between you all to split these days. We are asking, though, for an RSVP to all in-person charrettes, virtual charrettes, and topic-specific charrettes. The reason for that is we don't want to have where everyone shows up, you're there for an hour and a half and no one stops by. So we're asking for that RSVP in advance, and the person would do that on our website. That is also in the Mountaineer listing. It does state that in that flyer. We will then check the RSVPs 24 hours in advance, and if no one has signed up, we will cancel that, just to be mindful of everyone's time. Are there questions about the RSVP or which meetings you're expected to attend? Yeah, they're going to make this a quick meeting. I thought it was going to go on forever. All right. How will you then receive? Oh, go ahead, Karen.
Miranda, can you send those slides to us? I think there's a couple that we don't have that you have filled in, like ways to provide feedback and expectations. We don't have that in the email that you sent.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I thought that this isn't any different than what I sent out, so I'll resend it to make sure
Okay.
you all have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry. I'll also send you the Mountaineer document so you can see that. So how we will give you feedback. We will compile all the feedback from the different platforms every Friday and post it into a public outreach feedback document. That document will be housed on Google Drive and organized based on subcommittee. And Peter and I will decide where the feedback should go between your subcommittees. We may duplicate it in some areas if it crosses different boundaries, but every Friday you can expect to receive that information there. Subcommittees are always welcome to meet as needed throughout April to discuss the feedback, but you'll note we haven't scheduled any actual regular meetings. I would ask that if you meet, you do give me 48 hours notice so we can properly publicly notice the meeting itself so the community can attend. All subcommittee meetings should resume though the week of May 3rd, because that's when you're going to want to finalize your goals and objectives based on the feedback provided. And Peter sent out calendar invites for all of those meetings that first week of May. Questions on that? Okay, so next steps. I've said this a few times over, but we need to be sure that by 9 a.m. this Friday, you've incorporated any feedback you've received on your goals and objectives, either in this meeting or on that document, that you do so this week. And if you need to connect via WebEx, let me know and we'll set that up for you. We also need you to select a subcommittee member who will narrate the slides and have that person connect with me. And then I will arrange how we can complete that by 12 o'clock on Monday. What happens? So that's kind of what we need to do this week. I also added the slide of what happens after public outreach. So once you have your public outreach, like I said, you'll reconnect that first week of May, and the committees will integrate any of the feedback that they received with the goal of presenting the final goals and objectives to the Board of Trustees on May 18th for them to approve for us to move forward. Once we've received that approval, the committees will then really work on the action plan, and that'll include targets and standard performance, performance measures, initiatives and projects. That's where we will do the overlap between the different committees, where we see that there are still goals that maybe work together, and we'll start to blend those. We have adjusted the timeline a little. The action plan will then be submitted to the Board of Trustees on June 15th with an adoption of July 6th. Originally, the adoption was to occur in June, but it looks like we do need to push that out one meeting. So are there any questions about all the public outreach, what's expected this week, and where we go from here? Okay. The next time we meet as a whole group will be May 11th, but I'm happy to kind of stick around if questions do come up.
I'd like to give a big thank you to Miranda. She is our fearless herder of cats, and she has kept this all together and done such a great job. And I just am amazed by how much work all of you have done, each one of the committees. What you've come up with is just amazing. And thank you for everyone's dedication and commitment to this process.
Agreed.
Ditto on Miranda. Whoa. Excellent work.
Thanks. All right, I see your hand, but I don't know if that was from before. I didn't
No,
have my
that's from
participant up.
from now.
It's from
This
now. Okay.
that is from now. This document, in order to comment and put in comments to the other subcommittees, where would I find that again? It is rattling in my brain and I
Yeah.
cannot find it.
So it's going to be on our Google Drive. I've created a
Okay.
new folder for it.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing for a second and I'll get us to that. So this,
Okay.
I just link in the chat too.
thanks.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
so
much.
if you're on our Envision, hopefully you're following me. I don't see this. Do you see my screen, Ari? Can you see this?
We see that you're sharing, you're
It's
trying to
trying.
share with us, but it's,
I see that it's thinking about it. And now it won't let me stop sharing. On the Google Drive, if you go to the link, but on the Google Drive, the main Envision page, there's a folder now called Vision, Goals, and Objectives.
Okay.
And it's in that, I'm frozen now, but it's in that document.
Got it. No problem. I just bookmarked it, so I will not lose it.
Perfect. And
Thank
so I
you.
would recommend that you connect with your subcommittees to just kind of figure out how you want to integrate the feedback. It will be important for me to know around 9 o'clock if you have made changes, what those are. I'm getting notifications every time a comment's made, but those are obviously just comments and suggestions at this point. So I will need to know what official changes are made.
Okay.
And Miranda, you need that by 9 a.m. Friday? Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes,
Okay.
because this document that you all are working on is what we'll share with the Board of Trustees in their agenda packet. And then on Monday, when we finish the YouTube video, I'll send that link out
Yeah.
to everyone.
Yep. Raise hand. Oh, you don't have it.
Okay.
I also want to just add when with the YouTube video and recording that, if anyone has any issues recording that, if you need help, I can probably set up a recording station at Town Hall. I have a rather nice microphone and some other equipment that I can bring in, and just to make it sound a little better.
Peter, I was kind of just moving forward on my presentation. Do you want to just introduce yourself really quickly to everyone?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Peter. I am the new administrative assistant. I'll be helping Miranda with a lot of this, probably on the back end. And if you're ever in Town Hall, you'll probably see me right up front.
Thanks,
Welcome to
Peter.
Town Hall, Peter.
Thank you.
Peter, can you drop your email address in the chat?
I can.
That way, if people do want to connect with you for YouTube, they can. Did we lose Miranda?
Looks like we did.
Yeah, because
Uh-oh.
all of a
She
all of a
froze and
sudden,
disappeared.
all of a sudden it says I'm in charge of this meeting. So, motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Third.
I'm actually not sure if she was done with her slides or not, but I think we were real close to the end.
I think all the subcommittees have their marching orders to work on their updates by Friday 9 a.m. and designate a recording star for the YouTube video.
Yeah, Miranda said she's still frozen. So I'm just going to tell her we're going to say Saranara,
Mm-hmm.
unless
Does
there's
that-
something
does that-
else.
Does that make her a frozen dead girl?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay. Equal time. All right, are we done?
Well, I'm going to just check to make sure we're okay.
Okay.
I just joined on
There
my
she
phone.
is.
I think we're done unless you all need anything from us. Otherwise, I'll resend the PowerPoint. I'll make a couple of formatting changes, and then hope to hear from you all soon. about your who's going to narrate and any changes you have. Okay.
Awesome
We are
work,
done
everyone.
then.
All right.
Thank you all.
Look at that, a half
Thanks,
hour
everybody.
early. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Good night, everyone.
Good
Night.
night.
Have a good night.